Hi Megan, how are you doing?
Hi, do I'm good, thanks, and you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
A pleasure.
Awesome. So Megan, tell us a little bit about yourself. So who's Megan? Where did you grow up and where did you matriculate?
So, first of all, thank you for asking me to do this. It's a very big honor for me. And so, when we had a chat about, me possibly doing this interview, I was actually very nervous because I'm a very honest, very straightforward person, and that can sometimes cause a little bit of frictions when it's social media and when it's on the internet. It's on there forever. So if I say something stupid or it's just going to be here forever. So I was very freaked out. But I'm going to try and be as authentic as possible without becoming a meme. So,
Okay.
okay.
Awesome.
So with me, so I was born in 1994, born free, yay. To a single mom. I was born in Pongola in the Northwest. That's why I can speak Zulu a little bit, like I can say Sawubona in Ngisto Kushaya wena.
With your face.
Yeah, because I had a Zulu nanny. And so and the orange ganda ganda is here Nesta. So there was like on the farm that we lived, there was a tracker that came by and he like really eyed her. And so he would always give me oranges to like impress her. So
Nice.
Zulu nanny, who also taught me that when people speak Zulu to me, that I don't know what they say, I'm just like, "Anga," it's like I don't know. So so yes, a single mom born in Pagola. We moved around a lot because because we were very poor. And my mom being a single mom, my sister's 10 years older than me. So with the two of us, my mom's always kind of just survived. And my mom's very survival mentality. Like she will do what she needs to do. If she needs to cut grass to get food on the table, then that's what she will do. And so due to that, we moved around a lot. So I've lived in like 7 out of the
You're
yeah, and that was only in the first like 10 years of my life. So I remember, and there are many people that say when they speak about their past, they would say, "Oh, we were poor, but I didn't know we were poor." I knew we were poor. Like, there's just something about this type of poor is like ingrained in your personality forever. I will forever be poor. And I remember with my mom, I used to always make this joke where I said that, would we save money if I didn't get sweets anymore? And then she would say, yeah, probably. And then I'm like, okay, but do chips count as sweets? Because I also need to understand
how far?
negotiation. And I was probably like 6 years old. So when you look back on it now, you're like, actually, you know what? I had a fairly good grasp on like what we could afford and what we couldn't. And so because of that, my mom at like various points in my life worked in excess of 3 jobs.
Sure.
What happens is with the sister that's 10 years older than me, my mom, I wouldn't say you grow up alone, but you have a lot of alone time. And now, as an adult looking back, I can understand as well with primary school and high school, I always got into trouble because I never did my homework. I never studied. I ended up passing matric grade, 4 distinctions and everything, but I didn't open a single book for those entire 12 years because there were so many other things that I wanted to do. And so if I think back at it now, the boredom and unstimulation creates so basically what happens is the understimulation and the aloneness creates boredom, and boredom creates curiosity. And so I'm actually so grateful for that because that formed a fundamental part of what my whole personality is built around. Because, and also the people, they were like, yo, that child talks a lot because okay, how do they decide where stop streets go? Why does there have to be 9 provinces? Like if something says this is a mugging zone, how many muggings must have taken place for that sign? Like, is there a country average? You understand? Like the everyday things, and a lot of it's got to do with TV as well, because as a young child, you watch a lot of TV, and I watched like cartoons, Discovery Channel, like love TV. And so that, and I know people say, oh, they hate screen time, all of that, but I must tell you, that definitely fueled my questions. It was like, so that like really pushed into that, which like was actually amazing for me. And so basically what happened was went through primary school, like almost failed because I never did my homework because everything was boring. And the teachers, what happened to me was I was about 7 or 8 years old, and one of my teachers, by that time, I could understand from watching television that it snowed in December in America. And I don't remember exactly who explained it to me, but I understood that there was southern and northern hemisphere, and that they have different seasons, and that they are on opposite ends of the seasons. And I was like 7 years old, and I asked this teacher, which now in retrospect, if I think about her, she was probably like, because I was in Afrikaans school, she was probably like 19 years old from Oudtshoorn. Like when I think back about it now, that's probably what she was. But to me, she was an authority figure. And I asked her, why does it snow in movies, but it doesn't snow in South Africa? And she couldn't tell me. And that is where it all started. That's where it started. I was just like this little 7-year-old child, like, honestly, that's not the life that I'm going to live. I cannot let these people that do not understand those basic concepts influence me. And that's why primary school was a nightmare for me. I was always a troublemaker. I also used to watch, because I watched TV, I used to watch Walker, Texas Ranger. And so if somebody hit me, I hit them back. Like, always in fights, always in, my mother would love to say I was very unladylike. But yeah, so primary school was very tough on me. High school was better. Because things became more interesting, and in the second half of high school I could choose subjects that were interesting to me, so I ended up passing quite well. I got my 4 distinctions, but it was also really, it was hard, high school, because also what happened with me was, because I was so my family is English, but I was in Afrikaans schools. So to the English people, I was Afrikaans, and to the Afrikaans people, I was English. And so high school was generally very hard because of that. But I ended up doing okay. Like, also never studied, never, because, and you wouldn't think that something as small as that, when I was 7 years old, this teacher that couldn't explain to me what was the difference between the northern and the southern hemisphere, you wouldn't believe how that catalyzed me to, for 12 years, not study. So, like, you need to tell the kids, like, you are going to influence them.
Clearly, sorry, say that again.
No, I ended up passing okay.
No, that's awesome. But clearly that teacher scarred you a lot, because if you still remember that a few years ago what her response was, that's interesting.
So, no, it's like 18 years ago now.
Yeah, so now that's a long time. That's a very long time. You must forgive the teacher, Megan. And then, so you matriculated, you finished your school.
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to study? I mean, you spoke about how curious you were growing up, the stuff you exposed. So did you know what you wanted to study?
No. Like, so what happened with me was, because I lived the life that I lived, I obviously wanted to become a very wide range, from like the 4th Powerpuff Girl up to like a vet. So in my, and that's like that's where things like The Gumologist came in. I saw it on an episode of How It's Made, where they showed how they made bubble gum, and that it's actually like a certain percentage rubber, and thinking like, the people swallow that, like. But that was also something. So I was very much influenced by television. That's why also, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to become a secret spy, or I'm going to become a judge, like Judge Judy. It was a long list of things that I wanted to become. But I had a bit of an issue where, due to the fact that we were so poor, and I know that the other poor kids would feel me on this one, but you had this thing where in schools, they would, if your school fees weren't paid, you would get like this massive red envelope. And in the class, they would call your name and you would have to come to the front and collect the red envelope. And everybody knew what that meant. And the school in which I was pretty much like you were seen as lesser than, you were dirty, you had diseases, you had like all kinds of stuff. So that genuinely scarred me, the fact that I don't have school fees and we don't have money for school fees, and I cannot let that continue for another year. Because for me it was, when I'm 18, I'm out of here. I can do my own thing. I never have to look anybody in the eye for anything again. I never have to worry about, I can look after myself, make my own money. I'm not dependent on anybody, none of that stuff. So what happened was I told my mom, no, I'm not going to go to varsity. So like with South African parents, she was like, I'm like, sorry, what did you say? Like, she was like, no, you will go and study. And she was also like, no offense to like the arts kids or whatever, but I wanted to become an actress. And my mom was like, no, that's not going to pay the bills. You're doing at least a BCom. Like, honestly, don't put shame in your family.
You.
My mom was like that, guys. And also, I'm like one of the first people so the English side of the family, they all did matric and studied further, whatever. But my grandmother's side, nobody did. So I was one of the first people that went to university. But because my mom was she was very adamant on education. She was like, I will stand on the street corner if I have to, but you will go and study.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, and it was tough. Like I'll say my last 2 years now, because it was like I got a lot of the red envelopes, a lot of the, oh snap, we can't give you your marks because you haven't paid your varsity fee. So I still had a lot of that, but actually it turned out okay. But so my mom, she said, okay, cool, you have to go to varsity. So I went. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so I did BCom HR, and also I applied to one university. To me, it was very much, I'm just doing this to like appease my mom. After this first semester, I'm out of here. But so what ended up happening was I started with the HR, hated it. And I'm not really sure why though. Like I'm actually quite really like a people person. I'm very empathetic. I'm very caring, but I don't know, like the HR as a degree was very focused on labor law, and much focused on commercial law, but never to protect the employee. And I mean, this was only my first semester in varsity, and obviously, like I cannot make the assumption about the whole degree, but that first semester, and it's probably not fair to say it like that, but it made me feel a little iffy. But I had ecos as one of my subjects. So then in my second semester, swapped over to BCom economics, loved it. Oh my goodness, like amazing. I was like, these doors have opened up for me. It was like a whole new level of curiosity. And so I swapped over to ecos. Oh my gosh, I did like 9 subjects a semester to catch up. And I was doing extra subjects because I was like, I'm one day gonna want to talk business French. And I had like a whole bunch of extra subjects as well, which I really did to myself. But so I swapped over to ecos, and then I ended up passing my degree cum laude.
Wow.
And I ended up, like by God's grace, I ended up doing my honors as well in economics, which was amazing. And so varsity to me, and it was I'm so happy I went. I'm so happy that my mom pushed me for that first semester, because it was hard and it was terrible, and people knocking on your door to pay your bills is awful. But varsity like opened this whole world. It was like, for the first time in my life, people took me seriously. You could ask the questions that you wanted to ask. It wasn't like that teacher where they said, why are you thinking like that? These are the 4 things that you have to think about. We don't care about that. Think about these 4 things. Varsity was a lot more, like, let's talk about these things. Like, okay, let's have a discussion. Let's understand how they fit into the world. And that kind of, oh, it was amazing. It was liberal, and you like it was just it to me as a human being. It was an amazing experience because suddenly these were people that I could respect because I could debate with them and ask them questions. And wow, I did. Like in a class in front of 300 kids, those kids hated my voice because every time the teacher would they're like, oh, it's Friday, or like 4 o'clock, we want to go. And then the teacher says something. I'm like, hello, yeah, I just could go and ask you about that. The whole class would go like, oh, because this is I am going to dig into this and understand exactly like what are you saying right now. So to me, varsity in personal terms was amazing because I was on SEGD, which was like our charity committees. So we looked at old age homes. We taught netball to underprivileged grade 1 and grade 2 girls. We gave maths extra classes. I was on the student committee, so like I was so the student committee was basically like the student body, but for BCom students.
Yeah.
It's nice to be on that because you got to do really fun things like welcome the first years, and you also got to deal with things that kind of grew you as a person, like complaints about lecturers or, complaints about the curriculum and, that type of stuff. So I loved that from a personal level as well. Varsity was like the best thing that could ever happen to me, other than my husband, but like varsity. So, yeah, that's where I was in varsity. So I was like, at that point, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to become after this, but I loved economics as a subject. I loved econometrics. I loved macroeconomics. I loved the subject as a whole. And I was like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm going to do my honors in. And I'm hoping it works out.
It sounds interesting. And I mean, what I'm quite curious about is you spoke a little bit about the challenges of funding in varsity and at school. You sound like you were a very smart kid with good marks. So did you get funding in terms of a bursary or any funding from the school? Or how did you work around the funding issue?
Yeah, so yes, funding was a big issue, but I must tell you honestly, what's nice about about Northwest University is if you do well, you get discount on your classes. Okay. So I got discount on a lot of my classes. I applied for this tiny bursary that was like local to Ermelo, the town in which I went to high school, and it was like this local bursary where they were like, oh, you know what, we want to help a few kids with with a few rand. It was, I think they were 15,000 rand a year. Cool. So that helped a lot. I also, what happened with me, and like, honestly, it's not the work of man, the fact that my fees got paid, because we had this that was like in the financial aid office. And so what would always happen is there would always be like a miracle. So like, I remember once I couldn't get my results because my fees were not paid. Yeah. And to the woman, I said, oh, like, what can I do? Like, honestly, like, I'll sweep floors. Like, I'll like rearrange the storeroom. Like, I need you to help me here, dude. I don't know what to do. I am struggling to get a job because everybody works, and your classes and your hours are so crazy that it's also hard to find a job that you can do like between 2 and 4 in the morning when you have 2 seconds to yourself. So it was. So I remember the one. I'm actually so sad that I can't remember the lady's name, but she passed away, and she left a trust. So some of her trust funds were allocated to me. I had. It would just like it would sometimes it would just work out. Like that's what was amazing. So I had to work. I remember the one semester I had to sell my phone because I needed a textbook. But also what happens is you become very resourceful because, so I did that. And then eventually I got a phone, and then I realized like all our textbooks are in the library. So believe that I'm going to photocopy because Textbooks are so and so that's also what I had to do. It's like everybody's always like, oh, but you did a 4-year degree. Where are your textbooks? I'm like, you sell them so that you can buy new ones. Who
Yeah.
has the luxury to? And also like the people that go to Van Skalk, like the most expensive bookstore every semester, and they buy all the books new, and I'm like, yo, dude, that's a different kind of luxury that like, wow. So it was hard, but you become resourceful and you figure it out, and you do part-time jobs, and you trade in your old books for new books, and you sell your phone. But that doesn't happen every semester. You kind of, yeah, you figure it out. You have the library, and believe it or not, the varsity is actually really, I want to say, a lot more empathetic than what school, or what my school was. It wasn't so much the red envelope in front of the whole class. It was, and I also think maybe it was because of the friend groups that I had, because I had like friends from all walks of life, and we were all kind of poor. So felt okay because we were all going through the struggles. When we all figured out, you know what, guys, like, I want to tell you the story, but no, I don't think I should. I'll send you the WhatsApp after this about how he saved money. But yeah, so you share the knowledge and you say, oh, you know what, guys, like this textbook is in the library. You're only allowed to copy a certain amount of pages, otherwise it's plagiarism. So it's like, okay, I'll copy 50 pages, you copy 50 pages, you copy 50 pages, and then between us we'll figure it out. So funding was really terrible. But and also because my mom was so persistent, works 3 jobs, invests every cent that she has into my education. Thank God for her, because I didn't have a study. I never had to take out a student loan. I did try, but I didn't qualify. So it was like I was too rich to apply for financial aid, but I was too poor to get a student loan.
Sure.
I remember Ref, when we had a chat about it in my interview, she spoke about the missing middle.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, that's what it was. But you know what? You survive it, and it makes you stronger, and it makes you resourceful. And that's always a good thing.
Yeah. No, definitely. And then you finished your varsity with an honors degree in economics. What happened after that?
So varsity, I must have probably applied. So in my honors year, I must have probably applied for like 30 to 40 different grad programs and positions, and I probably went for about 10 interviews. And you already don't have money, and then you have to like I interviewed at the Saab, and like have to like drive here for the interview. You have to like, and I remember I had 2 pairs of neat pants, 1 skirt, 2 shirts, and then 1 pair of shoes. So like the neat clothes. So I had to like, I could with a scarf, some earrings, like swap the whole outfit around. These people never, like, even at the summit, I had like a tiny little bag like this, right? Because I only had like 2 shirts, and but that's how I had 2 pairs of shoes. So I could like swap it out with some bangles, tie around it. So it was actually really not a great process to go through. And also what happens is you very quickly realize in interviews that people want young talent, but they don't want millennials.
Yeah.
So what happened was, like, in these, and obviously you would meet the people that start to chat or whatever. And so in the interviews, you would very quickly pick up that these people are not about the millennial life. And then you're like, I'm sorry, but you guys have like 40-year-olds somewhere interviewing, because all of us are like 21. I don't know. You're looking for, I don't know, somebody who is 40 on the inside. What's happening here? So that was also not like a process to go. And that there's there's a book, it's called Mind the Gap. And so I understand it a little bit better now, but that doesn't make it less sucky. So it was very like, interviews were hard, you were nervous, you were scared, you wanted a job, you were like, oh my goodness, I'm going to live on the street next year. or I have to move back to my hometown. And honestly, I would just live on the street. It's fine. Like, I ain't never going back to that place. Like, no. So it was very stressful. And obviously, as a poor kid, you're extra motivated to get a job because there is no other plan. There is nothing else. It is, you have to start working. I interviewed with the bank that I currently work for. It was UNREF. I did a telephonic interview, and then you guys invited me to the summit, and I packed like my 2 pairs of shoes and my 3 shirts, and I was like, here we go. And at the summit, it was like this really fancy hotel, and I remember walking in, and I was like, yo, Megan, you're in way over your head. And I almost didn't go through with it. I was like, I remember my boyfriend, he who's my husband now, he dropped me off on the outside and he said, don't worry about it. I'm going to walk in with you. Because I was like, and also like studying at Northwest University, Potch is still a small town. And to me, I've always been the weird one. Like, so I was a weird person in Potch. Like in Joburg, people were like, yo, that one, we must keep her at a distance. so I know you're laughing, but that's a real thing. Like I was genuinely the weird one. And so I was like, yo, Megan, you're in way over your head. Like, what the hell are you doing here? Like these people. And also at that point, you start hearing like, engineer, oh, this person studied in Dubai, this person did that. And I was like, yo, like, but I was like, I will hate myself if I don't at least try.
Yeah.
Ended up going, stayed at an amazing hotel, had the best food, met amazing people. It was actually such a nice bonding experience because the people that I met there later became very close friends of mine on the grad program that we all came through. So I was invited to the summit. We had games that we played. I was very competitive, but I was very competitive. And I remember like with the team, as I was like, not like bossy, but I was like, okay, guys, you need to explain to us. Each one of us, we don't know each other. Nay? So this task you are going to do. You need to explain to us. Do we need to keep quiet? Do you need us to cheer you on? What the hell do you need from us to make sure that we win? I was like, that's how it's going to work. And they're like, okay, no, you know what? I'm the type, everybody must please be quiet so that I can concentrate. I was like, everybody shut up. Like watching it like a hawk. And like, or like with the people that need, okay, now I needed a bit of motivation. I would like, if I had a vuvuzela there, that is what I would do for you. So I was actually scared that people were thinking like, because I was like running all over the room and like trying to make sure that like the person that was doing the act, that was the most important thing. Everybody else was supporting this person. And I think like the HR people that were sitting there must have thought, yo, guys, what's happening there? But we ended up winning. So I was like, not so bad, nah.
It was worth it.
Yeah, so after the summit, we all went home. You guys gave us a deadline. I can't remember what the day was, but they said this is the last day that we will contact you for offers. And so on the last day, I was like the whole day nervous, like sweating, waiting. Is my phone gonna ring? Is my phone gonna ring? And then it came because then it like I went for a nap. I remember I went for a nap, and then I woke up at 5. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's 5, close of business. And so I was like, I'm going to shower and drink a whole bottle of wine and just cry myself to sleep. No, I'm joking. It wasn't that hectic. But at like 5:10, Refugio phoned me. And she was like, hey, Megan, it's Refugio from Nedbank. I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting you. Hey, girl. And she was like, cool. So we'll send you your offer letter and everything. And so actually, after the summit, I can't remember if it was just before the summit or just after the summit, I had another interview with a consulting company. And they had like this. It was very cool. Like theirs was also like overnight. So they kind of tested, because consultants have to be like work under ridiculous conditions. The interviews were at 3:00 in the morning. So what would happen is that you had to arrive at, I think it was like 9 or 10 in the morning. They would keep you busy the whole day. Then you would change. Then they keep you busy right through the night. And then you do interviews at like 3:00 in the morning. and then they take it from there. So it was hectic, but also like majority of us were, I don't want to say night owls, but at varsity, that's like sometimes you go 4 days without sleeping, sometimes you sleep for 3 months. It's honestly, there's no in between. So it was actually the working through the night thing wasn't that bad, but it was kind of cool. And so they also sent me an offer. And I remember, Gav, we were talking about it, and we were like, nobody even came close. Like, we were like, guys, this is where the money is at. And I like, obviously, as me being a poor kid, you shouldn't be primarily motivated by money, but it's okay to be motivated by money. Like, you should be motivated by other things as well, but happiness is less important than hunger. So that's also very much where it was at. And actually it ended up turning out great. So got the offer, signed the offer, started working. The big thing to me was when I was at varsity, and when you go over into honors, and when you go over into the grad program, you're running. Hey, like you're like career wise, you're running, developmental wise, you're running, you're Usain Bolt, eh? Like it's go, 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 go. And this will tie in with the point that I want to make later, is just that when that, it's always very quickly in the beginning, and then after a while it starts to slow, and that's natural. It's not supposed to be, you can't be running all the time, it has to be. So that's just one thing that I would tell people, that when you leave varsity, you're going to run, and you're going to learn, and you're going to develop, and it's going to be like boo, 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 boo. And then you start to kind of not stagnate a bit, but your development and your changes and your what do I want to say? Your success isn't as exponential anymore, and it's okay. But so when I joined the grad program, it was amazing. We had these people from overseas with these really funky accents, all of these amazing things, and I formed such close bonds with those people, because even now, with the grads after us, I'm there, I'm chatting, and they're like, "Hey, good." Like, with your life, I'm like, yo, it's hard. Like, honestly, these people don't understand me. No, I don't say that. They, from a very early on, we formed a very close bond because of that. They were also, if I had questions, they very much treated me as an equal. And so loved that about the grad program. We learned all of these amazing things about investment banking, and then we did a course through Jew Corporate Education, which taught you a bit more of the soft skills, which was amazing as well. It was like I got over my fear of horses. It was just an amazing experience to start working. And I remember when I couldn't drive before I came to Joburg to work here.
Yeah.
So, but now I drive like a maniac. So like with taxi drivers, because also like I just have a grudge with taxi drivers, because every time that there's an accident and innocent people have died, I know it's because they drove like flippin' maniacs. And so what happens is sometimes in Sandton, the taxis would drive into oncoming traffic. No, hey, I will go. This chum does not understand. This chum thinks I'm gonna back down, but I don't. And so they always back down. And like if they cut me off, I will turn around. I'm driving. I will cut you off. So I have like this whole thing with the taxi drivers. And so I remember with my mom when she told me, no, when I'm moving to Joburg, she's like, oh, you need to be careful. People drive like maniacs. You need to be careful with the taxi drivers. Well, I think now what happens is taxi drivers, when they move to Joburg, they all chat and they're like, you must watch out for that redhead lady, ne? She's in a great area. She is crazy. Because genuinely there are some of them that just like, okay, we understand, because with me, I will not give you gab. You did not give me gab 5 minutes ago. I will cut in front of this guy so that I don't have to give you a gab. So that's why with moving to Joburg, this whole process of learning, developing road rage, learning about all of these amazing things, that's what makes you feel like you're running because you're learning to drive and you're learning new languages and you're meeting amazing people and you're doing all of these things. And then by your 4th year, where even though I'm still relatively happy, relatively content with my development, obviously I wish I could be faster, it does slow down, and that's natural. You need to also give yourself a gap and say that you can't always be running. So yeah, so that's what I was with that. Yeah, love the grad program. Oh, we I was chosen as the top grad for our grad. I was like, yo, I remember the day when they phoned us, I was on leave and they were on the phone and they said, oh, yeah, no, it's about, there was this meeting and I was like, oh, they're probably going to like be shitty with us about something. Someone did something wrong and they're going to tell us about it. So I thought it was that. And then they phoned us and they were like, oh, yeah, you guys are the top 12. You're going to India and Kenya. And then it like broke up and they said, oh, Megan, you're number 1. And I'm like, number 1 at what? Grad program. We're like, no, man, guys, I'm not believing you. And so they were like, no, like, free, what's up? And I was like, oh, yes, man. Yeah, that's so nice. Because I was actually here at the mall with my husband, and so I was like screaming in the mall. People thought I was being murdered, but I was like, "Oh no, it's cool, it's fine. I'm going overseas. Guys." Yeah, so they chose the top 12, and then the most amazing experience in India and Kenya, and I get chills when I think about it because that transformed my life forever. Because and what was so nice was the people that we met were people like me that have always been the outsiders, the weirdos. We met this guy, Nikhil. He's like 28 and he like basically single-handedly developed an ID number system in India. Oh. And so he honestly makes you feel like, what have you been doing with your life? Because and this is what he's achieved. So honestly, you should just go jump off a building because honestly. But the people that you got to meet and the people that I got to engage with was amazing. And so I never could have done that if I wasn't on the grad program. So that's why to me those 2 years, like, amazing. So yeah, that's where I'll end with that one.
and so I'm quite curious, Megan. So it's your first job, you're a grad, you spoke about the struggle of getting a job. And you kind of made it into this program, which is fantastic, and you're competitive and all of that. So the question I have is, so what advice would you give someone on a grad program? Because you spoke about the speed, because sometimes the expectation is you want to be there and you want to fast track your career, you want to do amazing things, you want to be the next head of the area. So how would you advise someone to kind of manage the expectation when things start slowing down, like what you spoke about?
Yeah. So, and I'm actually happy that you asked me that question because that was a big struggle for me. It was something that I struggled with personally. I do still struggle with it today, but not as much as previously. So what advice I would give to somebody before a grad program, where you apply, you need to make sure that you're at least going to like it. I know we all want jobs. We all have to start working. We all have to. But I'm telling you now that I know of people that accepted jobs just for the sake of getting a job and hated it. Like, honestly, and what ends up happening is that they drop out and they end up becoming waiters or bartenders, or which they make a whole lot more money than you do in a grad program, by the way, as a bartender. But I didn't know that. So that's the first advice that I would give, is that you have to look for people, company, culture fit. That's the big thing. Then if you're on a grad program, make the best of it. Like, you will never in your life have such accelerated growth in such a short amount of time. At that program, we as the older employees, we see you as new talent. You're interesting. You're okay, well, not everybody's going to listen to you. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody, we have the issue with the millennials, but majority of people are nice. Like, come sit down, ask us, tell me, like, what does my day look like? What do I think is important? What do I tell me about what you think is important? Do you think that the bank should change things? This is the process that we're running here. Tell me a little bit about what do you think about that? Do you think we can approve it? That's so use that and build the networks. That's the big thing. You have to make sure that you build a network where you might not have all of the answers, but you have to have an idea of where to start looking. The day, if you have a question, and so you need to at least have so that's what I would say is make your network in your grad program as broad as possible, and then in the years following, you can deepen some of them. But first, broaden. Then I think it also depends on, because the grad program that I was on was not an average grad program. It was obviously, we went overseas. We had all of these amazing classes, these personal mastery things like Enneagram tests and understanding your personality and, how to be a scout and when to be a soldier and design thinking. So the grad program was what our expectation was, well, for me, what my expectation was, far exceeded it. Then you are on the other end where it doesn't meet your expectations. I would say give it a fair chance. So I would say that a fair chance is probably about a year, especially as a grad. So, and especially when you're so young, getting out of varsity, you also don't want to waste time. But I think if you're on a grad program and you think, this is maybe not for me, you have to understand that, one, you have to build a network first. Two, you're in charge of your own development, and that will always be like that. And three, give it a fair chance. See, a year is not going to break your speed. It's not going to, if anything, in that year, you might learn soft skills. You might get to know people. You might meet a husband. You might, I don't know, have a baby. Understand, there are other things that will happen in that year that will benefit you in life later. So those would be the three main things that I would say to somebody currently on a grad program that is not meeting their expectations.
Okay.
Except also expect the slowdown. So that's the other thing, yeah.
Okay. No, that's cool. And I think it's fair that you shared that view of things do tend to taper down a little bit. It's not as accelerated as while you're still in the grad program. And the idea is, again, to teach you how to build yourself up again and work your way through the ranks as per what you expect. So now the question that I have for you is around, okay, you went into this grad program, you are a trained economist, essentially. So what's your aspiration? Where to from here?
Oh, I don't know. So to me, that's really hard, because I am planning on having, so in my mind, I have 20 different careers that I'm hoping that, because I don't know who has it, that has that ad that says, oh, the person that's going to live to 200 has already been born. I'm like, if anybody wants to test that out, I'm here for that, because 20 careers in this lifetime, and it's gonna be a little hard if I only live to be like 70. So you guys, I'm if you guys want to test prolonging medication. But if I speak, and this is like honest to God truth, I'm thinking of about 5 careers in my lifetime. So currently I am in investment banking. I work with financial institutions, which in itself has already been amazing to me, because I call them snowflakes, because each financial institution, like insurance companies, asset managers, they're all different, and they are so different from every other sector in the country. So somebody that could be a banker on mining could sometimes easily swap over to, like oil and gas. That's like fast-moving consumer goods and retail. They're relatively in the same space, where financial institutions, and especially in the job that I've been in, it's a very specialized area, and it's a very interesting area to be in. So for now, I want to say, and so this is now my 4th year working. now I'm still happy with this. I deal with amazing people. I get to know cool things. And that's exactly that, is that I have the grad program has now been a year and a half over. So that was a big thing for me when and there was like a fear in my heart, because that's why when the grad program ended, I immediately applied for CFA, which was the biggest mistake of my life because I failed miserably. And I studied so hard. So you have to also be careful that in that momentum, when things start to slow down, you don't go into panic attack mode, because I've also always been like that. I've like always been going through life crises where I'm like, oh, I'm 7, I haven't achieved anything yet. I'm 15, I haven't achieved anything. I've always gone through these things in my life where I'm like, always compared. It was never compared to the person next door or to me it was like, Mark Zuckerberg was a billionaire by the time he was my age. Like, what the hell am I doing with my why am I so bad at this? So that was very hard for me when the grad program was over and the growth slowed down a little bit. That was very hard for me, and like emotionally it was very hard for me because it was very hard on myself. I was like, oh, you're stagnating, you're just becoming your dead weight. Be that, right? Everybody wants to feel like they're contributing and that they're constantly. And also my thing is I've never been, oh, I want to be a big person in this company or a big person in this country. To me, it's like I need to make worldwide impact. That's what my thing is. And so that's why I'm giving myself 5 careers, because in one of them, maybe somewhere, like I'll be remembered. So that's a big thing, man. I'm very passionate about environment and animals and all of that. So that was always a big thing to me. So when the growth started to stagnate, I was like, oh my gosh, no, I'm going backwards. What's happening? I'm 25. I'm over. I can just as well like book into a retirement home and I'm done. So that was a little bit of a moment that I had where like wasn't feeling well, got severe anxiety. It was just a really bad space for me. And then probably about 6 months after that, I picked myself up with my bootstraps. I said, you know what? No, that's not how we can do it. I know you failed CFA. I know this is where you're at right now. People around you are doing amazing things. They're studying at the London School of Economics, and people are, having fashion shows in Paris. Like people that used to study with me. There are people that have the drama kids have like starred in a few series like Siem Lamont, Muvangu, and you're like, oh my gosh, even those guys are doing better than so you do go through a little bit of a thing, but at that point you have to also like start motivating yourself again. And that's why I picked up on something you have to, and also you can't be so hard on yourself that you're like, oh, you have to always go. So when your body tells you, rest a little bit, you should. But what I basically did was I started reading annual financial statements of companies, and that kind of piqued my interest again. And so I could compare. So what I would do was I would go into investor relations on a company website, and I'd go into like, let's say, what the financials looked like in 2001 in compared to what they look like now. And so that started to pique my interest. And so slowly but surely I've built up now, built up a little bit more of being in control of my own destiny and being in control of my own. So my 5 careers, I at some point want to become a wildlife vet. I need to find a varsity that can do like veterinary sciences part-time, because one in these dodgy like Cayman Islands or whatever, I think it's a shell company for a company that's probably tax dodging. They say that they do it part-time. So that would probably be one of my careers, would be I want to still at some point become a wildlife vet. I want to at some point do nutritional studies in Africa and in South America. So that would be one thing. The other thing would be is I want to do something in tech and live in Hong Kong for a year. So yes, I have a lot of ambitions, and I want to learn Mandarin, and I want to do all of these things. But I have also learned I have my ideas, I have my goals. I want to become a property developer. I have a big passion for, I want to write a children's book. I'm like already there. I just need an illustrator. So like if anybody watching here like knows somebody, illustrator. I'm writing a children's book. It's actually inspired by one of the guys that worked in HR.
Oh.
Adam Smith.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And he's like this really tall guy. And we always had this conversation where he said that, the big thing about houses now is that they're all getting smaller, tiny house nation. So the story is called A Tall Man in a Tiny House.
Wow.
And it's like, there's like a whole child story, which was inspired by him. I hope he doesn't watch this because then he's going to want royalties.
I'm going to send him a message to watch.
No, so I want to write a children's book. So that's just what I'm saying, is that there are so many things that I want to do that you have to also be at peace with yourself to say each one at its own time. You can have like a rough idea of where they fit in, and obviously have them at the top of your mind all the time, so that when the signals come for you to move, or when the gap comes for you to pursue one of them, you have to take it. But you need to also be realistic. So give yourself some time, and that would be another thing, is don't lose your ambition. Because, and this is not a where I bank type of thing. This is not just a corporate thing, but some of these day-to-day things can crush your ambitions. Like, honestly, you feel like this is what I am, this is it forever. And you constantly have this. And like, I know about a lot of people that happens to, where they're like, they work in these jobs, and then in the mornings before they go up to the office, they cry their hearts out in their cars. And they're like, I remember there was this lady that I always used to park next to in the basement when we still went to work. And she would always like listen to gospel music and cry in her car.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to find out where she works. I just want to take her out for coffee. Just like understand what is the story. Like, I'm so sorry. So you have to also, so yes. So like, out of all of this, the main thing is don't inhibit your ambitions, anybody. When you don't be despondent when you start to slow. If you are crawling, you are still moving. So yes, when you leave varsity, you're Usain Bolt, you're running, it's amazing. Then you start to slow down a little bit, you become a little bit more like Bugs Bunny, and then life knocks you down. People, like, you get kicked in the stomach. I'm being very dramatic, but like, you are like on your lowest, you have to keep moving. So that's just what you have to remember. And you have to remember that when you are crawling, you are still moving.
Yeah.
So those would be the big things. Have your ambitions, give yourself time, and keep moving.
Awesome. I really thank you for that. I think it's quite helpful, because often we kind of think, young people, you must have a plan. What's your 5-year plan? What are you going to do in the next 5 years? Blah, 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 which is a fantasy for a lot of people. But the reality is, life teaches you a lot of things. And sometimes being in corporate, it opens your eyes in terms of, sure, I wasn't quite real when I thought of these things that I wanted to do. And from a timeline perspective, 5 years doesn't make sense. So I'm glad even the interview people are taking off those questions. What's your 5-year plan? So I'm glad those things are disappearing. And thank you so much for sharing some of these ideas and some of the challenges you faced in your own career journey. Any other thoughts that you'd like to share? Some things you didn't have a moment.
Okay, wait, let me see. Like I told you, I made my notes here. No, I think I'm okay. I think the one thing that I wanted to reiterate was the thing with the money, where people say that you can't just, money doesn't make you happy.
Yeah.
The whole thing where that shouldn't be your primary motivation, but it's okay. It's okay to be motivated by money, and it's okay to move jobs, even when you love your boss and you love you love the people around you, for more money and for more. So that's also a big thing, that just you need to give yourself the time. So when you move, know that it's okay to move. When you crawl, know that it's okay to crawl. And when you're running, know that it's okay to be running. And remember to try and get the people around you to start running with you. That's also like a big thing that I also learned on the grad program, was that we need to, if you're motivated, that's very contagious. Negativity is also very contagious. So you have to be careful, who you surround yourself with. And yeah. So, do I have my, my ADD is like kicking in because I'm like, what are my 5 points now again? Honestly, like in the video, it's there. Like I'm sure it's come through. These are my 5 points that I think you should look at. Obviously, I haven't had it all figured out. So like don't go like swearing by this, like mess up your whole life and be like, oh no, because they don't pay me enough. Don't do that. But like some of the things that I have said, I know from experience.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm at with that. I'm out. Mic drop.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Megan, and really sharing your story and being vulnerable. I think there's a lot of stuff that were quite sensitive that you shared. I really appreciate that. I know you're genuine about it, and it really means a lot to you. So I was glad to even hear some of the stories on the interview, which is quite cool. Thank you so much for your conversation and for your time. I really appreciate you making this time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Itu. And I think this is a great initiative that you guys are doing. I'm so excited to see what you guys achieve.